Hi, I'm Stu Kagan, and welcome to Born Scrappy, the podcast for scrap metal exporters and traders. Join me in conversation with some of the most experienced traders and operators that have helped shape this incredible industry. In today's episode, I'm joined by my good friend Siddarth Parolia. Sid joined his family business Nihon Ispat in 2006 after studying in the US. Nihon Ispat is a non-ferrous broker in India with an incredible reputation. I've personally dealt with Sid for almost 20 years now, and I totally understand why they have the reputation they do. In this episode, we discuss how hard times are the best teachers, why consistency is key to becoming a preferred supplier, what's the best way to offer out your material, and so much more. So let's get into it and hear from Sid. But first, intro. Hi, Sid. Welcome to Born Scrappy. How are you?
I'm good, Stuart. How are you? Good to catch up.
Yeah, great to have you on. We've been speaking about this for quite a while. We did a 1 minute little clip when we were at the BMR the other day. So I'm glad we get to do 45 minutes or so together.
Absolutely. It's finally happening. I'm excited.
Sorry about the timing, though. I mean, you're probably in mourning with the Cricket World Cup final. And for those of you that don't know, India lost in the final at home against Australia. Sorry to bring it up now, but yeah, how was that for you?
Not so good. I think I'm going to cry. we were really hoping to have won it. Really good 11, playing 11. Unfortunately, I think Australia was quite consistent, outplayed us. So it's a pity we lost, but it was a great game nonetheless. Great final.
Is Gautam at work today, or has your brother taken the week off?
No, he's here as well. He's here. No one's taking.
Thought maybe would have stayed in bed for the week, maybe.
Yeah, we shouldn't let cricket affect our business. That would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Sid, obviously, you're in a family business with your brother and your father called Nihon Ispat. Tell us a little bit about Nihon Ispat. Tell us a bit about your journey as well as the company's journey.
Sure. So this is a second generation family-owned company. We are basically agents, brokers for import into India, all kinds of non-ferrous, ferrous, stainless steel scraps, basically all kinds of scraps. And I joined the business 2006. So this is my 17th year. So yeah, it's been a great journey, and it's awesome to have my dad, who's been in the industry really long. He completed 40 years this year. So with his experience, his reputation, I mean, it's amazing, and we've learned a lot. And this is a great industry, you're always learning every day.
You've got some big shoes to fill. Your dad's very well known and famous, you could say, in this industry. Doesn't he sit on a few boards as well?
Yeah, he used to be involved with the MRAI, and now he's currently the ambassador for the BMR. Right. But he's a pretty low-key guy. He doesn't like to get too involved everywhere. He loves giving time to his family and, of course, work.
Yeah. And Sid, did you study in the US?
Yes, correct. I did my computer engineering at Georgia Tech in Atlanta in the US. Right. That was from 2002 to 2006. And at that point, my dad, we were expanding the company. So it was the right decision to come back and help him expand. And me and my brother have, tried to grow the company since then. And we've done fairly well with blessings and regards from all our clients and friends like you.
You have. Sid, we always laugh because I told you the story about when I first met you.
But that was in 2006, I believe, yes?
It was a long time ago. We were still children then. And our CEO came up to call us from the trading office and said, "Oh, we must come meet these Ivy League boys."
From India.
He told us. He said these Indian boys went to Ivy League school. We must come meet with them and start trading with them. So I always laugh.
I remember that day. That was amazing. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. And we've been doing business ever since. I mean, that's 2006.
I think since I joined, exactly. The year I joined is the first time I think we visited you guys in South Africa. So I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done heaps of business. Let's get into some of the interesting stuff that you've been through. So talk me through a tough trade that you've had to deal with in all the years that you've been doing this.
To be honest, I joined 2006, and 2007 was when we saw the big nickel drop, more than 50%. And then, of course, 2008 was the financial meltdown of the world. So within 2 years of starting my career, I had two very strong learning experiences. So those were tough times, but it taught us a lot about good weather friends and people who stuck by us. We had to leverage a lot of relationships to salvage our contracts. We pretty much came out of it pretty good compared to others. We had a couple of incidents where, of course, we had issues, but we solved most of it. So those 2 years were great learning experiences because, I was just watching Natalie's podcast yesterday, and she said something which kind of resonated pretty strongly, which was that, when things are good, she said even a mother could come and trade and buy and sell. But, it's when the things turn south, that's when you really know, who your real friends are. And then we work it from there.
That's exactly right. Look, I'm going to start blaming you now for 2007 nickel crash and the crash in 2008 because you started 2006. Everything was going fine until you joined.
You showed up.
So it's all your fault.
I wish I could make such a big difference to global markets, but
I tell you, the toughest times is when you learn the most, and they are hard though. Like when you're going through it, it's
Absolutely.
really tough.
Absolutely.
The saying, it's been mentioned a few times on this, when you're going through hell, keep going. It was actually Eleanor's favorite quote. And that's exactly it. Because when you do get to the other side, the learnings that you actually get through those tough times are just huge. And they can't be taught. You have to experience them to really make sure they never happen again.
Absolutely. And what I always, tell everyone is that when the business of scrap, it's not a finished product. So every now and then we will have issues, but how we work together through it, that makes all the difference. And I think that's actually what sets us apart from the rest. We listen to both sides and we try our best with our experience to, make sure that no one feels like they got the raw end of the deal.
I can say firsthand, I have experienced that with you guys. I've never actually experienced agents that take the side of the supplier as much as you guys. So I know once or twice you've been upset by the performance of the end user or the buyer, and you've actually stuck up for us quite nicely. So that's true.
I appreciate it.
Talk me through some tough decisions you've had to make in this business and lessons that you've learned through that.
So one thing I've learned is like the highest price is probably not always the best deal. I feel there are various factors that come in: the price, the speed of the payment, the tolerance quality of the buyer. Things like this. We factor in everything. We don't always chase the highest price. We try and work all these factors in trying to give our sellers the best deal for their material.
And that's interesting coming from you because you're an agent or a broker.
Absolutely.
And that you have a fixed amount. So
Correct.
A fixed amount that you're taking. You don't work on a percentage.
No.
So really, when you say to guys, look, it's not about the best price, you could easily just go out and source the best price. And at the end of the day, you're not the one who's going to lose out if they pay late, if there's any issues post-trade.
Correct. But we want to think long term because, the whole deal actually, if there's some mishap, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth for the seller. So over the period of time, we've learned that, we have to make good the deal in all aspects. It's not just getting paid; it's getting paid on time. It's a lot of things that come into play. So we have to make sure the sellers, and that's why they keep coming back to us. I feel we work hard for them. We give value addition to them. A lot of them know the buyers, but they still will sell to us because we bring the relationships to them, and then we continue providing a value addition to the level of service where they get regular payment updates or shipment updates, etc. on both sides. So we work hard to make sure that we are well qualified to be understood as part of the process in the long run. It's not just one deal and just sell it and move on. We want to make sure everyone is happy at the end of the deal.
My wife mentioned the other day that I gave Natalia a bit of a hard time in the last episode, because I said to Natalia, we really want the best price. And I said to her, you're a trader. You don't necessarily want to pay the best price because you make the margin in between. But it's interesting because it's coming now from a broker as well, that it isn't that we should be demanding the best price. Should be choosing our counterparty very carefully.
No, as a seller, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you expecting or demanding the best price. And of course, because you're offering it to so many markets, right? Like we work mainly for India, majority, but of course, you're offering it to other countries in the Far East. So price is an important factor, probably one of the more important factors. But as an agent, we would do our homework, talking to multiple buyers and figuring out the best person for that particular item, for that particular seller, for that particular deal. That's where our expertise would come in.
Yeah,
so it's an everyday
absolutely.
battle. It's.
I know, and you're always doing the homework in the background for your suppliers. So
Absolutely,
you're actually always
absolutely.
there checking, like you say.
Absolutely,
we keep our buyer at the moment.
We keep our eyes and ears open. We're constantly traveling to meet our suppliers, our buyers, vetting them, getting market references. We have such happy and good clients on both sides, buyers and sellers, that they're more than happy to refer us because they trust us, they trust our ethics, they trust our reputation. So so we have that weight on our shoulders to make sure we do good by our sellers.
So, talking about people referring other people and working together, something I talk a lot about is collaboration. Absolutely. So how have you collaborated over time and working within the industry?
I mean, of course, all these wonderful organizations like BIR, MRAI, ISRI, BMR, they're all doing wonderful jobs in bringing people, like-minded, serious people under one roof, to meet, network. Of course, apart from that, we travel a lot. Then a lot of times in new countries, new markets, we have our clients who will refer us, I mean, there have been examples where in countries we've been trying to get in touch with a supplier, and then I know someone who I work closely with who knows them really well, and that immediately opens a lot of doors because we have a good reputation, and they know we're very reliable, so they're happy to trust us and pass that trust on to their colleagues and associates in the industry in whichever country they may be. And I feel that's one of the fastest ways we've grown because people have been always happy to refer us to their contacts.
Yeah, referrals, word of mouth, it's the best form of growth.
Absolutely, immediately opens doors. Absolutely.
Exactly. To try and cold call going into another region, what it's like in this industry to send somebody a message. Nobody's going to respond. You're like the other 20,000 other messages that they've got from other people that know some relation in a foundry somewhere and now think they have the best price and they're the best agent or trader in the market. So referrals are massive. And if you can have those in this industry in particular, you can go a really long way.
Absolutely. I think it's the fastest way to open more doors. Of course, apart from meeting people at conferences and traveling and meeting them individually in their countries, which we do a lot, getting referred by an existing common business associate helps speed up that process always.
So just to clarify, you go to most of these association meetings, right?
Absolutely. I've been to every BIR and ISRI almost since I joined 2006. Almost twice a year for each, because BIR has 2 conferences now. ISRI has the main conference and then the roundtable. So we try and travel to extensively meet our existing channels and also explore new people that we may meet, where we may find synergy in terms of what we can do together.
And would you recommend it for everybody else to go to these association meetings and events?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, it always helps to meet your people face to face. It's very easy to just find the name of some companies that are exporting stuff and then just cold call them or email them. But I feel a lot of, because they're so, like you said, that they're probably getting tens and thousands of emails so until it comes in through a reference, I don't know how seriously they would really take it, or you've met them, so they know they can put a face to a name. and they remember the conversation, what discussions, what possibilities together.
It's funny, a lot of these interviews that I do, almost everybody talks about these association meetings. Everybody talks about how much value there is. And I remember having different managers over time, different people reporting to me, and just different stories from different people and different opinions, I guess. And there were so many that I ran into that would go, oh, they're a waste of time. It's a waste of money. You just go there to drink beer, And it's true. We do. But at the same time, it's where we're networking. It's where we're meeting people. The amount of relationships I've made through these association events, it's just massive. So I asked you just because some people do have other opinions. So if people are listening and they're unsure or they haven't tried it for themselves, I really think you should give it a try. But when you do it, you have to do it properly. Like to go there and stand in a corner by yourself and make your own arrangements to go eat dinner by yourself because you're away for work or something, don't expect value. You get out what you put in.
Correct. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Yeah, you got to put in the hard work, put yourself out there, introduce yourself, talk about what you do. And yeah, I mean, there's no reward without hard work. So
absolutely.
Of course.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Sid, tell me about a career highlight you've had so far and what do you think got you there?
I think, the travel part, the extensive traveling at these conferences and individually visiting, that's always been a big highlight for me to understand companies better. And that always pushes me because, I feel like you can never know enough in this business, this industry. You're every day, you're always learning. And then what actually, gives me a little kick is that, I think the recycling industry is doing its little bit to reduce carbon footprint. I think in the bigger picture, that's the best thing in a world of increasing population and decreasing resources. We're a small part of an industry that's, it's making things a little bit greener. So, that's a little bit of a kick. And I explained this to my daughter as well, that we're doing a little bit to make the world a better place for you guys.
That's amazing, Sid. I love that. I mean, that is, what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's that drive to do that little bit better, to get other people to do that bit better, to get people to know the value that our industry brings. So many people on this planet have no clue about what we do. John Sacker with his Repurposed is doing amazing things, and we're getting the word out there. But it's just telling your daughter about the things you do, and then maybe talking at their school, or her telling people, her dad's a bit of a superhero because her dad's saving the planet.
I wish, but yeah, so
maybe you can dress up for school and with a cape as a superhero. And that could be anyway. So yeah, that's a really cool highlight as well, man. That's cool. That I really like that. And let's talk about the exporters now. So these would be your clients, your suppliers.
Yeah.
How would you recommend they optimize their export trading strategy? So what should they be doing better? What can they do? What have you seen people do that you go, well, that's a good way to operate in this industry?
I think choosing the right channel, first of all, that's very important. I mean, if you get swayed by big talk or like prices that don't sound realistic, it's choosing the right channel for people who are doing their own work in their country to make sure you get the best deal. So I feel for them, and not using too many channels into the same market. We often feel that a lot of buyers tend to lose interest if they get the same offer from, let's say, several channels, because then they feel it's like an auction or a marketplace. So they feel it works better when there's limited channels for the same material, and then try and make the most of it by selling at the best price in the best market. It could be India, it could be China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, whatever.
So we spoke about this at the last conference about marketplaces and selling into certain places. And I'm a massive believer in what you just said. Why would you offer it to 5 agents in India? Like, that makes no sense to me, because all you're doing is they're all offering it to the same buyer. And then that guy's getting offered that, he's getting offered from every angle, and it's just ridiculous. But I do believe you have to offer it to multiple people. So when you want the best price, it's about going into the different regions, different geographies, and saying, I wonder what Indonesia is paying at the moment. So I'm going to go offer something, that material also to Indonesia. I'm going to offer it into China. I'm going to offer it into India, maybe Pakistan, and maybe a bit of Europe. I'm just making it up. Whatever the commodity is, you'll know kind of which parts of the world will take it. But at different times, there'll be supply and demand. There'll be different times that certain regions will be more aggressive than others. So it's worth always putting it out there. So what you're saying is, as a tip, don't give it to, if you want to give it to 5 buyers, if you're going with the strategy that I always shout about is offer every parcel to 5 buyers. It doesn't mean 5 buyers in India. Is that what you say?
No. So what I meant was, maybe no, I was talking about agents or brokers into the country. Of course, if you have 5 different strong buyers, please offer them and check. Doesn't hurt to get prices, but it's just that over a period of time, buyers also tend to realize which sellers are supporting them. So it becomes, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So they tend to be more aggressive on with sellers that they know they are getting, let's say, a slight preference over in case their pricing is good. They won't have to wait till the end of the day till they've spoken to every single end user in the country before they make their decision. So it always helps. It always helps to have the right channel into a particular market.
So Sid, just double click on that for me for a second, because I want to understand it better. I misunderstood what you were saying there.
Okay.
So then I assume maybe some of the listeners might have misunderstood as well. So you're saying if you want to have an optimized trading strategy, you're saying when we talk to the buyers, offer it only to a few buyers in an area, or offer it to all the end users, but make sure you're selling into some of them some of the time. Explain it again.
No, so when you're offering it through a particular channel or let's say an agent, they do their homework to already offer it out to the existing framework of buyers. So they will talk to everyone, figuring out the right price. So it's sometimes some agents have a stronger relationship in certain geographical areas or certain buyers, or they have a better relationship or leverage over some buyers to be able to push them on better pricing. So I wouldn't say just offer it to one single agent, because sometimes one agent cannot cover every single buyer in the country. So maybe a couple of agents or whatever, and of course some buyers, but then you stick, we stick to a limited ecosystem on both sides. We don't try and sell to every buyer, and we don't try and buy from every seller in the world. Like when we target particular countries, we'll try and stick to the top 2 or 3. So because ultimately everyone in that market is competing for the same scrap. So if you start reaching out to anyone and everyone, then it kind of disturbs the dynamics of the scrap collection as well. So we try and focus on limited.
So let me go back then. I'm an exporter, and I'm asking you, Sid, I want the best prices for my baled 6063 aluminium. What do you recommend I do? What is my best strategy? Do I choose 2 or 3 agents in India as well as a buyer in Europe? How do you recommend I optimize my strategy?
Sure. I mean, it for a seller, it totally makes sense that they offer to different markets, because it's possible that due to various dynamics, it's not always India that is paying the highest price for any commodity. Sometimes maybe it is, sometimes it's not. So of course it helps to talk to maybe a couple of agents for each country, or to buyers directly if you have relationships, to figuring out which markets are leaning towards a higher price as compared to others. So you've got to keep your eyes and ears open every day. I mean, we're talking to all our buyers and sellers almost every day, every alternate day for different products. It's a continuous communication system, which gives us a little bit of an edge in where to place what item.
I think what you said there is really important. Keeping your eyes and ears open is really important. Knowing kind of which market's paying what at the time, knowing how much you can push. And you'd be silly to even be asking for more. Take the deal. It's the best price in the market. Your agents worked really hard, instead of just pushing because you feel that you can always get $20 more. Having your eyes and ears open is always going to be really helpful. I've always relied a lot on having strong agents in regions, and then being able to trust what they tell me. I also find that's really, really important.
Absolutely, because they have the ground reality. A lot of dynamics change, and you don't know, what the buyers, what is the standing? Have there been some changes in the organization? So it's always good to have someone on the ground, who has all the updated information. And of course, today there's so many factors at play. Apart from, of course, the LME volatility, there's currency that is changing a lot. Local markets may change. There have been times when the LME is crazy high, but the local market is extremely weak. Or there have been times when the LME is fairly weak, but the local demand is high. So all these factors, if you're constantly in communication, all these factors become much more clearer, faster, which helps you to take decisions about selling at the right time.
Sid, you and I spoke about this at the BAR the other day. We had an incident with a buyer in India who had changed their management team.
Correct.
And they were dealing with claims in a, I don't want to say unprofessional, that's maybe unfair, but in a different manner to the way they had dealt with it.
Absolutely. So for 15 years, things were very different. And then, of course, like you said, the management changed and that completely changed the way they were dealing with problems or issues. So yeah, like I said, this is very important because in our industry, nothing is constant. Everything is changing every day, and you got to learn on the job and keep learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So when dealing with a new buyer, we're going to stick to now the exporter. When dealing with a new buyer, what should they be looking out for? And I guess, what are you looking out for when you're introducing a new buyer to an exporter?
So for us, it's very important that any new buyer we introduce, we always visit their facility to understand their infrastructure and their strength. And of course, we always get a fair bit of market reference about them from their peers, either in the same city, in the same state, or in the same industry, who they would know, and who have something to say about them. So we are pretty, to be honest, we are a very conservative company. We're very picky and choosy about who we deal with. So we always rely on market references to go ahead, especially with very new companies.
So I think most exporters can relate to the way you onboard a new buyer, because you're conservative. You've been doing this for a long time. For a lot of people, for a lot of exporters, and one exporter is now wanting to deal with a new buyer, it's really important that they consider in the same manner that you do, being picky, being careful, visit if you need to, make sure you've spoken to references,
Absolutely. I think that's where our strength comes in. We make sure we give that faith, that's kind of support level to our sellers to know that we've done our homework, so their interests are well protected by our efforts.
Yeah, it's really important. And, we always stick to, know your counterparty. Everybody always talks about in this and even everywhere else I go, you've got to know your counterparty. Absolutely. But there's more to it. It's not as simple as just saying, oh, I need to know my counterparty, because, that could have many different definitions.
Of course. And you're always learning more and more new things about the same company that you've been dealing with for a while. And that also, like, every time you meet them at a conference or you meet them personally in their country of where they're based, you will learn something more. And then, of course, people also at companies sometimes change. Like you said, the management level could change even on the seller side, and the dynamics could completely change. And you got to rework on that relationship for your sales. So it's an everyday battle. And we're happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it is. It is enjoyable. But when you're dealing with a new buyer, how do you go about and actually get, those referrals or find out more about them?
To be honest, we actually also ask the buyer up front if there's anyone in the industry that they already deal with that they would like to, let us have a reference from, or if not, then whatever metal they are in or whatever city they are in, like I said, we call around and ask, about them. So
it's a tricky one, right? You ask me, I'm only going to tell you my friends.
Yeah,
but there's not many other options.
No, but to be honest, our buyers and sellers, they know us, they know the way we work. So they wouldn't. I wouldn't expect them to give a one-sided one-sided opinion, because a lot of times they leverage us for these opinions as well, so it works both ways. So we gotta be transparent, we gotta be fair. A lot of times, a lot of companies will ask me about my competition, and I always say good things because, I think it's fair to them, because, and we've had the same thing reciprocated to us, where our competitors have said that absolutely they are great guys, good guys to work with, so.
We used to always laugh about when you interview new staff and you get those referrals, right? And you ask them who you can contact. And then you get an old woman and she's like, yes, this person is lovely. And you always go, I think that was their mother that I just phoned.
That sounds something straight out of high school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We used to always ask questions about who the referrals were. So when we talk about exporters and how they become kind of a preferred supplier, what do you see the benefits are of being a preferred supplier, and how do you become one? And I just want to touch on something as an example. So you're an agent. When you say I have X metals or a company, I'm selling their material versus another material. I think it's important for people to understand. They know the difference, right? The buyer will ask you who it's coming from, and they will have viewed the material and know who the preferred supplier is and who isn't.
Okay, so I mean, to be honest, in scrap, because of the ESG terms, the scrap guidelines are pretty much standardized. So, like if I offer you wheels from Australia or wheels from New Zealand, there's not going to be so much of a difference. But when specifically we say, like, let's say it's wheels from supplier X versus wheels from supplier Y, the buyer probably runs it through his mind. He probably thinks about how the last few loads that have come from the same source were, how soon they shipped, So things like this, they refer back to the history. And they also always remember is that which of the suppliers have supported them consistently in all markets, in a going up market, in a going down market. And obviously it works both ways, Sellers also remember buyers that have supported them when markets were going down, and not only buying when markets were stable. So it works both ways, where buyers and sellers make a good judgment of, let's say, a particular group of people that have been more consistent on pricing, on faster payments, on deal confirmations, so things like this. So it helps you become a preferential buyer or seller on either ways. I think it's all about consistency. The more you deal with the same number of people, the more you support them, because ultimately, majority, I would say almost all of our customers are all end users. We don't sell to too many traders. So they have a factory to run. They always need material. It's just a matter of price. So they, over a period of time, realize which sellers tend to support them more based on the volumes we are able to achieve with them. So that's how, yeah.
So consistency, you would say, is
consistency
one
with
of
volume.
the biggest factors. Yeah, with volume. Correct. So that you're not always playing them up against other parties and never supplying them any material. Or when the market comes down, you don't dry them up and go, oh, well, now I'm not interested in supplying you. I only sell to you when the price is higher than the
exactly,
market.
Because I share this viewpoint with a lot of my suppliers that never put all your eggs in one basket. It's possible that other countries in Asia are probably paying higher, but it's still important to keep the other buyers, maybe not too much volume, but just a couple of containers here and there, to let them know that you're there to support them. Because if things change the other way around, and then like they only want to offer to India, and then they say, well, he didn't offer me when things were going south for us, I'll prefer to buy from someone else. So it's a very give and take,
It's so difficult, and I'm sure you can understand, but it is so difficult being in a metal recycling yard and having your agent in India ask you, please supply this guy some material. We know the market is slightly lower in India than you can get elsewhere, but it's good to show him consistency. You've done it many times with me. And I don't think, and I'm being brutally honest, that I've been able to always come to the party, because I'm competing against the likes of Sims, on my next door neighbor, or whoever else is right up against me, and it's super competitive. And I feel at the time that every wheel, because we were talking about wheels, every wheel, every dollar, every cent counts. So it's really difficult. However, I get it in the big picture.
In the bigger picture.
Exactly. So when I was at, for example, in South Africa with the much, much larger company, and we were doing 5 to 10 boxes of wheels almost a day, it was easy for me to say, okay, Sid, you can have 5 boxes for your market. The rest is going to go elsewhere. But when it's you in a smaller operation and smaller,
of course, that call
but
is more difficult to take. If you have only one container to sell, then of course you'll go for the highest price. But in the macro scheme of things, I'm just sharing a viewpoint that it's always good to have all your options open. Because you never know what changes what. I mean, we saw the green fence effect come in China, as a result of which a lot more metal in the last 5 years is now coming to India, which wasn't the case before that. So of course that decision is much more easier for bigger companies to take vis-a-vis like smaller companies that would want every single extra dollar they can get, because it is important to them, and we totally understand, because things are a lot more competitive on both sides. Let's say in the last 10 years, a lot more competitive. We would see a lot like much faster decisions earlier, but because things are so competitive now, there's a lot more back and forth and fighting going on prices just to get the extra dollar, because things are so competitive now, which we understand. We are happy to be part of the process to help.
I wasn't saying at all that you were wrong with what you were saying. I agree with you 100%. I was just saying how difficult it is. It's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Neither is right or wrong, because supplying that market that is asking you to support them when the prices are lower is a good decision for the future. But it's a very difficult decision for the now, where you're competing right now to buy that tonnage. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of that's hard.
Yeah.
Your dad's been in it for 40 years, this industry. You've been in it for a while too. How have you seen this industry change over the past, whatever it is, 15, 20, 25 years?
Well, for starters, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. The good thing is that, aluminum that was aluminum 20 years ago is still aluminum today. With a lot of industries, you don't see that. Things change so much in 5 or 10 years that it's a completely different ballgame. But the good thing is, and it'll continue to be so, metal will be the same. India is a growing economy with a huge appetite for metal, so we're seeing a lot of it come in. And the good thing is, the only thing that would change, I mean, I think things are getting more and more competitive. There are more dynamics at play, like I mentioned, currency, voyage times, local markets. What else? I think the way business was conducted has changed a lot. Earlier, we had telexes, then we had faxes, then, we had emails. Now today we have WhatsApp. Who knows? In another 5 years, we could have, I don't know, Google AI glasses, where you're able to do things much faster. So of course, there could be a tech play in the future, but otherwise, I feel this business is a very relationship-driven business, P2P. So I don't see that immediately changing in the very near future. I still think relationships will be important in our part of the business, even going forward. No matter how much tech comes in, it's very important to understand who your metal is going to, how they're processing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. We did have this conversation. I believe that any tech that comes into the industry has to assist the relationships.
Exactly.
It has to add value.
It cannot replace it. Exactly.
Cannot replace. I don't believe that this industry can transact with anonymity. So we cannot sell or buy to parties that we don't know, right? Which is how marketplaces operate. Exactly. So I believe that it has to be adding value, and it has to really lean into relationships and understand that, and that's why it might be harder for tech people to build things for this industry, but they have to understand that we are relationship based, and that's never going away. So
there's a lot of money at stake, so it's very important.
Absolutely.
To make sure the due diligence is done. And everyone's vetted.
Yeah. So I think anything that comes about has to allow for that. So I was going to ask you how you think the industry is going to change in 10 years. AI glasses, I think, was your choice. You said Google. I just want to make sure in 10 years' time, when we look back, we know that you predicted that we were going to trade with Google AI glasses. So that's so other than that, maybe a bit of tech at play. No real other change. Still always obviously relationship based, you're saying.
Correct. The metal stays the same.
Metal will be the same. Metal will
But
be there
I think
to be recycled.
another thing I'd like to point out, there'll be a big push on recycling and green metal, and we're seeing a lot of marketing strategy. That's the word. Their marketing strategy is coming in. We're seeing a lot more focus on more and more recycling and more green metal being used. So yeah, I think it's very important. Reducing our carbon footprint. In fact, we need to market it better. I feel our industry is a pretty quiet industry. I think the world needs to be made more aware of what we're doing and how we're contributing to a greener earth. So yeah, it's important.
I agree completely. I mean, that's something we speak a lot about, and we want more people to speak a lot about.
Yeah, I heard from one of the stalwarts at one of the conference, and he joked that 20 years ago, no one wanted to marry a scrap guy. And today, everyone wants to marry a scrap guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I think there is a lot of awareness, more and more awareness about the industry and what we do now. So, of course, things have changed for the better.
Yeah, I think Scrap University is doing amazing things. Jess has put out these incredible books, about recycling. So the more we get the kids to start learning, and we try and, like you say, you tell your daughter, those sort of things, I think will go a really long way. So in the next 10 years, I think this industry is going to get a lot more prolific. We're going to see a lot more of it. We're going to hear a lot more of it, and in a positive light, not in a negative light. And that's really the purpose and the objective of many of us out there, trying to make sure that it is seen in a positive way.
100% agree. So.
Sid, who are the people you're looking out for? Who are the people that you feel move the dial, worth watching, worth getting together with at conferences, because they're working on some exciting things?
Nihon Ispat, of course.
Nihon Ispat, of course. But you deal with Nihon Ispat every day, your brother and your dad. So who else? Is there anybody?
Of course. I mean, I think all the big companies are doing really well. Like I would say Sims, EMR, the DJJ Group, all the big companies around the world. And one good thing we've seen lately, especially from the European companies, is that they're more and more concerned about how their scrap is getting processed in India, in terms of safety, in terms of environmental compliance. And we're seeing a little bit more push on understanding that better, which is actually good for India in the long run, because it makes us also think a bit about how to improve the processes locally, so that environmental safety, compliance norms are met as per international standards. We're seeing a lot more of that.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's finish off with getting to know Sid a little bit better. I know Sid quite well, but I don't know if I know all of these answers. So let's kick off with, what is your favorite TV series or movie?
My favorite movie for a while has been The Shawshank Redemption. I really like that one. TV shows, I watch the same stuff. I think Suits, I used to love Suits, The Ballers, Succession,
There you go.
The same stuff. I watched White Lotus lately. That was pretty cool too.
Nice. Do you watch with your wife most nights, or do you watch these by yourself?
Both. I mean, she's also a big TV buff, so we tend to watch a lot of it together as well.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Now, the next question is really important, and I'm going to listen to the answer, because you've probably traveled to more places than anybody that I know. And that's mainly because whenever I speak to you, you're always in another country, even though it's usually on holiday, let's be honest.
I wish, Stuart.
What is your favorite place to visit?
My favorite place to visit, actually, last summer we were in Sicily, so it's probably in my top 2 or 3. It was beautiful. I had a lovely time. And for a holiday, my favorite place has always been Bora Bora. Yeah, I've been there once, and it is unbelievable. So
it's on my bucket list. Bora Bora. We've got to get there. We spent a lot of time in Mauritius when I was in South Africa.
Mauritius is amazing.
It's amazing.
Very
it's
close
like
to you guys.
Yeah, it was close to us in South Africa. And here I was in Fiji twice this year. Fiji is also beautiful. So it's kind of similar to that, but I have heard Bora Bora is probably just at another level.
I'm kind of prejudiced towards islands. So
yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Do you read a lot? I actually don't know this about you. Do you have a favorite book?
No, I do have a favorite book, but I don't read a lot. My wife reads a lot, so every now and then she'll refer a good book that I must read. But the one book, one of my closest friends who knows I don't read a lot referred to me it's called Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and that's a game changer. Like I had never read a book, and once I started, I couldn't put it down, and I think it's so important for anyone and everyone to get their hands on it. It's a great book.
Now, The Diary of a CEO is a podcast, and it's fantastic. And he interviewed an author last week, and I think it's that guy. I think it was The Psychology of Money, and this was probably one of my best episodes.
In fact, the same guy has come out with another book just recently. It's called Same As Is, which talks about the fundamentals that have stayed the same in life or in business or anything for the last 100 years, So things you need to focus on in life to get ahead. Okay,
so when your wife isn't reading to you in bed, you read The Psychology of Money.
That's right. I've actually read it twice now. So yeah, I've read it more than once.
Very good. Just out of interest, have you ever read Cold Steel?
I haven't actually.
It's worth a read. Like you in the game that we're in, it's the Lakshmi Mittal story.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I've heard about it. Yes, absolutely.
It's brilliant. It's really, really well written. I
have very high respect for that man. I think he really put India on the map with the way he took his company forward and built his steel empire. It's fantastic read.
And now, based on that, you have to go and read it. It is, if you think he's incredible, read the book and you'll realize he is at another level.
Great.
He is an amazing man. Okay, and a favorite quote?
Well, so one of my favorite quotes is, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Wasn't that by a golfer? Wasn't that Gary Player who said that?
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know where that came from. I've just read it somewhere, and I think it's so true for me. Like, especially at work, like I've seen, like, the harder you work, the more opportunities come your way in that particular field. Are you a golfer, Stuart?
I am not a golfer. I'm not built for golf. I don't have these long levers. But I did play a lot of golf when I lived in South Africa because when we looked after clients, we used to always go to golf. So I used to play every week for years.
Oh, wow.
And after rugby, a lot of the time, we'd always go on a Sunday to go play golf. But no, I'm not a good golfer. I do enjoy it. I used to really enjoy the 19th hole and hanging out and just staying there for a few hours. But probably not a great golfer. Do you play?
No, so I like going to a driving range, but I've tried. I've played a few 9-hole games, and I mean, I'm not that good, so I'm still. It's in the works. I would love to play better. I need to just find time to play more.
Just ask your dad if you can retire, and he can come back and work a bit harder.
I play a lot of football. I play a lot of basketball, so I don't get much time. I've started playing a lot of tennis since COVID, so I don't get much time for golf, unfortunately, because the other sports take up most of my time.
And just before we go, I just want to confirm one thing. Which year are we going to see you with my hairstyle? Because the last time we did a video, you were, in fact, on the video on LinkedIn is what you said was, as I put the screen on and started recording, you said, I'm losing all my hair. So should we expect next year BIR or maybe closer to 20?
No, give it more time, Stuart. Give it a little bit more time before I join your club.
Yeah, exactly.
I do remember you with hair though, Stuart. I do remember
you used to have hair.
Back
it's not a rumor.
South African days, yeah.
It's a true story. It's spiky, gelled hair back in the day.
I remember.
Mate,
good times.
It's been lots of fun. Exactly. And we've got a lot more good times coming. So I'll be seeing you in January.
For sure.
Association meeting in Kolkata.
Yes,
and absolutely. Then at ISRI as well. Yep. So we'll be getting together a lot next year. So, but thanks for being on Born Scrappy, mate.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it.
It's been wonderful catching up.
Awesome. Cheers, Sid.